Here I have an n8n cold email automation, and if we go ahead and test it, we can see that it gets a lead, it sends an email, it waits a bit, sends another email, then waits again, and then sends the last email. And as you can see, it also updates the status of the lead. If we reply to the email, the reply will trigger this flow, which prevents the flow up here from sending any more emails by updating its status to replied. And it can also send us a notification on Telegram telling us that the person replied to the email. Now if you want to download the flow for free, you can go ahead to a link in the description, but I'll also cover how this works step by step. And the first thing that happens is the webhook gets triggered by cron job, which is basically a cron scheduler for webhooks. So for example, this one triggers the flow every day at 2 PM, and if you want the flow to be triggered multiple times a day, all you have to do is create multiple cron jobs with the same webhook URL. Now once the flow is triggered, the first thing that it does is get a lead from your lead list. I just got this one from Apollo, but make sure to add a column at the end called send status and set all of the leads to new. Then inside this node you want to set up your spreadsheet for your leads. Make sure you add a filter and set the column send status to new. And this is super important, make sure you add return only first matching row and set this to on, otherwise it will send an email to every single lead at once, which will cause your emails to land in the spam folder. Now once it gets a lead, you can add a edit fields node and set up the subject and email body of each email. Now I've added 6 fields for 3 emails, but the number of fields you add really depends on how many emails you want to send. So if you want to send 5 emails, set 10 fields. If you want to send 8 emails, set 16 fields. Now in these fields you can also add the lead's name or company name just by dragging one of these into here. Now once these 2 nodes are done, you can send the first email to the lead by adding a Gmail node. You want to set the operation to send and set to the email address of the lead, and set subject to the subject field that we set in the edit fields node. Make sure to set the email type to HTML, and the message can be the email field that we set in the edit fields node. And if you don't want this message here, which says this email was sent automatically with n8n, all you have to do is add the option append n8n attribution and set this to off. Now once the first email has been sent, you can add this node for Google Sheets to update a row, set the operation to update row, connect it to your lead list, and set column to match on to email, or whatever column has your lead's email addresses. Now set the email column to the email address that you got from the first get row node, and then make sure to set send status to sent 1. This basically tells you that 1 email has been sent to the lead. But then after that we add a wait node. This is the time between each email that you send. Now right now I have it set to 5 seconds, which isn't realistic for cold outreach. So normally you'd set this to around maybe a 3-day gap between the first 2 emails. Now once it has waited those 3 days, you can add another get row node. This is basically just to check if the lead hasn't replied to you yet. Add a filter, the column should be email and the value should be the email address that you got from the first get row node. And again, make sure it only returns the first matching row. Then add an if node to check if the lead status is replied. When you enter this field here, make sure you get it from the send status column from the latest get rows node, and we set it to is equal to replied. If the lead hasn't replied, it'll be false, so we can send the next email. Now for these 4 nodes, what you can do is just copy paste these 4 nodes over here, since it's basically the same thing. But what we have to do is first we change the email content to what we have set for the second email. So we enter in subject to and email to, and we do the same thing in update row. We want to set send status to sent to tell you that you've sent 2 emails so far, and then we wait again. Now this is also up to you. I'll just set it to 7 days, and then after that it does the exact same thing again. So what you can do is just copy paste these 4 nodes here, but again we have to replace the email content. So we set it to whatever we have set for the 3rd email, so subject 3 and email 3, and then we update its status to sent 3. Now that the flow for sending emails is done, we can work on a system that prevents this flow from sending emails to people who have already replied to our emails. So first, just add a Gmail trigger node, set the event to message received, and turn on simplify. Now since this node sets from to the name and the email address in brackets, what we have to do is extract only the email address from that string. So we use a code in JavaScript node and we enter in this. I'll add this to the description so you can copy paste it, and basically that allows us to get only the email address. Then add another Google Sheets node and set the operation to update row, connect it to your leads list, and set the column to match on to email, and then add the email from the JavaScript node into here, and then make sure to set the send status to replied. So this makes it so that when the person replies to your email, it updates the status to replied to prevent this flow from sending any more emails. And if you want, you can add a Telegram node to tell you that the person has replied to your email. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments. And all of this is downloadable for free from the link in the description.